She held a stranger's hand and whispered, "Jesus is with you." Then his heart stopped beating. What Nurse Delilah didn't know was that the dying man in bed 12 wasn't a stranger at all. The hospital room was quiet except for the steady beep of machines. Delilah Martinez walked softly across the cold floor. Her white shoes made no sound. It was 3 in the morning and most patients were sleeping. She stopped at bed number 12. A man lay there, still as stone. His dark hair was messy against the white pillow. His face looked peaceful, but the machines told a different story. Numbers flashed red on the screens. His breathing was shallow and weak. Delilah had been a nurse for 8 years. She had seen many patients come and go, but something about this man made her heart feel heavy. Maybe it was because he looked so alone. No flowers sat on his bedside table. No family photos smiled from the windowsill. No one had come to visit him in the 3 days since his accident. She picked up his chart. Marcus Thompson, age 32, car accident on Highway 45. No known family. The words made her sad. Everyone should have someone who cared about them. Delilah looked at his face again. Something about him seemed familiar, but she couldn't place it. Had she seen him before? Maybe at the grocery store or her daughter's school. She shook her head. It didn't matter now. The machines around his bed beeped faster. His blood pressure was dropping. Delilah checked his IV line and adjusted his blanket. His hand lay open, on the white sheet, palm up, fingers slightly curved. Without thinking, she reached out and took his hand in hers. His skin was warm, but too pale. She felt his pulse, weak, but still fighting. "You're not alone," she whispered to him. "I'm here, with you." Marcus didn't move, but somehow Delilah felt like he could hear her. She had learned to trust her feelings about patients. Sometimes they knew more than the machines did. "My name is Delilah," she continued softly. "I'm going to take care of you tonight. You just rest and get better, okay?" His hand felt so small in hers. It reminded her of holding her daughter's hand when Esperanza was scared. Everyone needed someone to hold their hand sometimes. The heart monitor above his bed showed a steady rhythm, but it was getting weaker. Delilah had seen this pattern before. She squeezed his hand a little tighter. "I don't know what brought you here," she said. "I don't know what happened in your life before this moment, but I want you to know something important." She leaned closer to his ear. Her voice was barely a whisper now. "Jesus is with you. You're not fighting this alone. He's right here, and so am I." The words came from her heart. Delilah's faith had been tested many times in her life. Being a single mother wasn't easy. Working night shifts while raising an 8-year-old daughter was hard. Sometimes she wondered if God was really listening to her prayers. But in moments like this, sitting with patients who had no one else, she felt something bigger than herself. She felt like maybe this was why she became a nurse, to be the hands and voice of hope when people needed it most. Marcus's breathing seemed to calm a little. The numbers on his monitor steadied for a moment. Delilah smiled and kept holding his hand. "That's right," she whispered. "Just rest now." Then everything changed. The heart monitor began to scream. The steady beep became one long, flat sound that filled the room like a siren. The green line on the screen went straight across. No peaks or valleys. Flatline. Delilah's training kicked in immediately. She pressed the emergency button on the wall. "Code blue, room 12. Code blue, room 12. The announcement echoed through the hospital hallways, but she didn't let go of his hand. Even as doctors and nurses rushed into the room, even as someone wheeled in the crash cart with its wires and paddles, even as the room filled with urgent voices and the smell of electricity, Delilah held on. "Come on, Marcus," she whispered, her voice lost in the chaos around them. "Don't give up now," the lead doctor shouted orders. Someone pushed a needle into Marcus's IV. The defibrillator charged. With a high whine, "Clear!" the doctor yelled. Delilah finally had to step back, but her hand still felt warm from his touch. She watched as Marcus's body jumped with the electric shock. Once, twice, 3 times. The room held its breath. The heart monitor stayed flat and silent. But Delilah knew this wasn't the end of the story. Something about this moment felt different. Something about this man, this night, this whispered prayer in the darkness. She just didn't know yet how different it would be. 3 months earlier, Delilah Martinez sat at her kitchen table, staring at a pile of bills. The numbers seemed to grow bigger every time she looked at them. Rent was due in 5 days. The electric bill was already past due. Her car had broken down last week, and the repair shop wanted $400 she didn't have. "Mama, can you help me with my math?" 8-year-old Esperanza climbed onto the chair next to her. Her school backpack was covered in colorful patches and a small cross keychain that Delilah's mother had given her. "Of course, baby." Delilah pushed the bills aside and pulled Esperanza's homework closer. "What are we working on today?" "Addition." "Problems. But they're really hard." Esperanza chewed on her pencil eraser. "Mrs. Johnson says we need to show our work." Delilah smiled despite her worries. Her daughter's face was so serious when she concentrated. Esperanza had the same dark eyes as Delilah, but her smile was different. Sometimes Delilah wondered if she looked like her father. "Okay, let's start with this one. What's 15 plus 23? As they worked through the problems together, Esperanza asked the question that always made Delilah's heart ache. "Mama, why doesn't my daddy live with us?" Delilah's pencil stopped moving. This question came up every few weeks, and she never knew how to answer it. How do you explain to an 8-year-old that sometimes people make mistakes? That sometimes love isn't enough to keep a family together? Remember what I told you before? Sometimes grown-ups have to make hard choices. But Sarah's daddy comes to all her soccer games, and Tommy's dad helps him with his science projects. Esperanza's voice got smaller. "Did my daddy not want me?" The words hit Delilah like a punch to the stomach. She set down her pencil and pulled Esperanza into her lap. "Oh, sweetheart, your daddy loved you very much. But sometimes life gets complicated for grown-ups. It's not your fault. It's never your fault." "Then where is he? Is he sick? Is he lost?" Delilah closed her eyes. The truth was, she didn't know where Marcus was. They had been so young when Esperanza was born, just 19 years old and scared. Marcus had talked about getting married, about being a family. But then his foster family moved him to another state for a job opportunity. He promised to come back for them. That was 8 years ago. I don't know where he is, baby. But I know he would love you if he could see you now. You're smart and kind and beautiful. Esperanza hugged her tight. Do you think God knows where he is? Another hard question. Lately, Delilah had been wondering if God was paying attention to their little family at all. She worked double shifts at the hospital, but they still barely had enough money. She prayed every night for help, for a sign, for something to get better. I think God sees everything, she said carefully. Even when we can't understand his plan. Maybe Daddy will come home for Christmas. That would be a good present. Delilah's throat felt tight. Maybe, baby. But we can't count on maybes. We have to take care of each other, okay? You and me, we're a team. The best team, Esperanza agreed. She slid off Delilah's lap and went back to her homework. Can we have pancakes for dinner? We have pancake mix, and it's cheap. Delilah laughed, though it sounded a little sad. Pancakes it is. Meanwhile, across the city, Marcus Thompson stared at the papers spread across his office desk. The numbers told a story he didn't want to believe. His business partner, David Chen, had been stealing money for months. The company Marcus had, built from nothing, was gone. Bankrupt. Finished. His phone buzzed with another angry call from a client. Marcus let it go to voicemail. He had stopped answering calls 2 days ago when the news broke. Everyone wanted answers he didn't have. The worst part wasn't losing the money. The worst part was that he had trusted David completely. They had started the company together 5 years ago, two friends with big dreams. Marcus handled the creative side while David managed the finances. Now Marcus knew why David had always insisted on handling the books alone. Marcus stood up and walked to his office window. The city lights twinkled below him, but they looked cold and distant. In a few hours, he would have to clean out his desk. The building would be sold to pay debts. At 32 years old, he was starting over with nothing. His thoughts drifted to the past, as they often did when life got hard. He thought about the foster homes where he grew up. He thought about the other kids who became his temporary brothers and sisters. Most of all, he thought about a girl named Delilah Rivera. She had been his first love, his best friend, his everything. They had dreamed of having a real family together, something neither of them had growing up. But life pulled them apart before they could make those dreams come true. For years, Marcus had tried to find her. He hired private investigators. He searched social media. He even went back to their old foster home to ask questions, but Delilah Rivera seemed to have disappeared completely. Marcus didn't know she had gotten married and changed her name. He didn't know about the little girl with dark eyes who asked about her daddy every few weeks. He just knew that somewhere out there, the only person who had ever truly loved him was living her life without him. The betrayal with David had used up the last of his savings. The private investigators were too expensive now. His search for Delilah would have to wait. Marcus picked up a photo from his desk. It was old and cracked, showing him and Delilah at a foster home Christmas party. They were both 17, smiling at the camera with their arms around each other. She was wearing a red sweater, and he had his hair slicked back like he thought he was cool. "I'm sorry, Delilah," he whispered to the photo. "I tried to find you. I tried to become someone worthy of you." Thunder rumbled outside his window. A storm was coming to the city, bringing rain and wind and lightning. Marcus didn't know that in 3 months, that storm would change everything. He didn't know that the answers to all his prayers were working night shifts at City General Hospital, just 15 minutes away. He didn't know that love sometimes finds a way, even when hope seems lost. The rain hit Marcus's windshield like angry tears. He could barely see the road through the storm. His wipers moved back and forth, but they couldn't keep up with the heavy drops. He shouldn't have been driving, not in this weather, not in his state of mind. But sitting alone in his empty apartment had become too much to bear. The walls felt like they were closing in on him. Earlier that day, he had signed the last papers. His company was officially gone. His business partner had disappeared, probably to some country without laws about stealing money. Marcus was left with nothing but debt and broken dreams. The radio played soft music, but it couldn't calm the storm in his heart. He thought about the photo of Delilah he kept in his wallet. Would she even remember him if he found her? Would she care that he had lost everything? Maybe it's better this way, he said to himself. Maybe she's happier without me. The thought made him press harder on the gas pedal. The speedometer climbed past the speed limit. Rain made the roads slick and dangerous, but Marcus didn't slow down. He was thinking about the past when the truck ran the red light. Marcus saw it coming too late. The big delivery truck slid sideways through the intersection, its driver fighting to control it on the wet road. Time seemed to slow down as Marcus yanked his steering wheel to the right. The crash sounded like thunder. Metal twisted and glass shattered. Marcus's car spun twice before hitting a lamppost. The world went dark. 2 hours later, car accident. "Coming in!" The emergency room doors burst open. Paramedics wheeled in a stretcher with a man covered in blankets. Male, approximately 30 years old, unconscious, possible head injury. Delilah looked up from her paperwork. She was covering an extra shift in the emergency room before her regular ICU shift started. The money from working 2 shifts would help pay for Esperanza's school supplies. "What's his name?" she called out, following the stretcher. "Marcus Thompson. No family contact information. Wallet was damaged in the crash." Delilah's heart skipped a beat. Marcus. The name hit her like a wave. But thousands of people had that name. It couldn't be her Marcus. That would be impossible. She looked down at the unconscious man as they transferred him to a hospital bed. His face was bruised and cut, but something about his features made her breath catch in her throat. "How old did you say he was?" she asked the paramedic. 32, according to his driver's license. 32. The same age her Marcus would be now. Delilah moved closer to get a better look. The man's dark hair was matted with blood, and his eyes were closed. But the shape of his face, the way his nose curved slightly to the left from an old break. "Delilah, we need to get him to surgery prep," Dr. Williams said, interrupting her thoughts. "Possible internal bleeding." She nodded and helped wheel him toward the elevator. As they moved through the hallways, she kept stealing glances at his face. There was something so familiar about him, but she couldn't be sure. The accident had changed his features, and it had been so many years. In the elevator, his hand fell off the stretcher. Without thinking, Delilah caught it and gently placed it back on the blanket. His skin was cold, but she felt a strange warmth in her chest. "Do you know him?" Dr. Williams asked, noticing her expression. "No," Delilah said quickly. He reminds me of someone." After surgery, Marcus was moved to the ICU. The doctor said he was stable but in a coma. His brain had swollen from the impact, and they wouldn't know the full damage until he woke up, if he woke up. Delilah volunteered to be his primary nurse. She told herself it was because he had no family, and everyone deserved someone to care for them. But deep down, she knew it was something more. That first night, she sat beside his bed during her break. The surgery had cleaned most of the blood from his face, and now she could see him more clearly. Her heart pounded as she studied his sleeping features. The scar above his left eyebrow was still there. He had gotten it falling off his bike when they were 15. The small mole on his neck was exactly where she remembered. Even his hands looked the same, long fingers with a callus on his thumb from playing guitar. "It can't be," she whispered to herself. "It can't be you." But her heart knew what her mind didn't want to accept. This broken man in the hospital bed was Marcus Rivera, the boy she had loved, the father of her child. The man she had waited for until waiting became too painful. She reached for his hand again, the way she had in the elevator. This time she held it longer. His pulse was steady under her fingers. "Marcus," she said softly, testing the name. "Is it really you?" He didn't respond, but his breathing seemed to deepen slightly. Delilah squeezed his hand gently. "I used to dream about seeing you again," she continued, her voice barely a whisper. "But not like this. Never like this." Over the next few days, Delilah found herself talking to Marcus during her rounds. She told him about the weather, about other patients, about anything except the secret that was burning in her heart. She couldn't tell him about Esperanza. Not yet. Not until she was sure. Not until he was awake and could handle the truth. But sometimes, when she thought he was sleeping deeply, she would share small pieces of her life. "I have a daughter," she said one evening while adjusting his IV. "She's 8 years old, beautiful and smart and full of questions I can't answer." Marcus's eyelids fluttered slightly, but he didn't wake up. "She asks about her father sometimes," Delilah continued. "I tell her he's a good man who had to go away. I tell her he would love her if he could see her." This time, Marcus's hand seemed to twitch in hers. Delilah looked at the monitors, but everything appeared normal. "The doctors say you might be able to hear me," she said. "I hope that's true." I hope you know you're not alone anymore." She stayed with him until her shift ended. As she gathered her things to leave, she looked back at his peaceful face one more time. "Sleep well, Marcus," she said. "I'll see you tomorrow." She didn't know that somewhere in his unconscious mind, Marcus was dreaming about a girl with dark eyes and a kind smile. He was dreaming about Christmas mornings in foster care and promises made under winter stars. He was dreaming about love that never died, even when it seemed lost forever. And in those dreams, he could hear an angel's voice calling his name. Marcus floated in a place between sleeping and waking. Everything was gray and soft, like being wrapped in warm clouds. Sometimes he could hear voices from far away. Sometimes he felt gentle hands touching his arm or fixing his blanket. But there was one voice that cut through the fog like sunshine, through a window. "Good morning, Marcus," the voice said. It was gentle and kind, with a slight accent that reminded him of something precious from long ago. "I brought you fresh flowers today. They're yellow daisies. I thought you might like them." Marcus tried to open his eyes, but they felt too heavy. He tried to speak, but his mouth wouldn't work. All he could do was listen to the angel voice that seemed to know his name. "The weather is getting warmer," the voice continued. "Spring is coming early this year. I opened your window a little so you can feel the breeze." A cool wind touched his face. It smelled like rain and new grass. Marcus wanted to smile, but his face felt frozen. In his mind, he drifted back to another spring day many years ago. He was 17, sitting under an old oak tree behind Sunny Hill's foster home. A girl with dark hair and laughing eyes sat beside him, reading a letter from her caseworker. "They found me a family," Delilah had said, her voice mixed with joy and sadness. "A nice couple in California wants to adopt me." Marcus's heart had broken a little that day. "That's wonderful," he had said, trying to sound happy for her. "You deserve a real family." "What about you?" she had asked. "What will you do when you turn 18? "I'll find a way to make something of myself," he had promised. "Then I'll come find you, and we'll have our own family." She had kissed his cheek and whispered, "I'll wait for you, Marcus Rivera, no matter how long it takes." But life had other plans. The adoption fell through at the last minute. Delilah stayed at Sunny Hills, but Marcus got moved to a different foster home across the state. They wrote letters for a while, but then the letters stopped coming. Marcus had never stopped looking for her. "I had a rough childhood too," the angel voice said, pulling him back to the present. "I grew up in foster care. Sometimes I felt like nobody wanted me." Marcus's heart jumped. Foster care. Could it be possible? Could this voice belong to there? "Was this boy I knew?" the voice continued. "He was kind and funny, and he always shared his dessert with the younger kids. He used to say that family wasn't about blood. It was about who you chose to love." Marcus felt tears trying to form behind his closed eyes. Those were his words. He had said them to comfort other kids who felt unwanted. "I wonder what happened to him," the voice said softly. "I wonder if he found his family." "I found you," Marcus wanted to say. "You were my family. You were everything." But the words stayed trapped inside his sleeping mind. "The doctors say you're getting stronger," the voice told him. "Your brain is healing, but I think your heart is healing too. I can see it in your face when I talk to you." Days passed, like pages turning in a dream book. Sometimes Marcus felt more awake, floating closer to the surface of consciousness. During those times, the angel voice became clearer. "I have a daughter," the voice said one evening. "She's 8 years old. Her name is Esperanza. It means hope in Spanish." Marcus felt something stir deep in his chest. A daughter. This woman he was growing to love had a child. "She's been asking about her father lately," the voice continued. "I don't know what to tell her. He's a good man, but life pulled us apart before she was born. I've been raising her alone. A father who wasn't there. Marcus knew that pain from his own childhood. He wished he could tell this woman that some fathers don't leave by choice. Sometimes they get lost trying to find their way back. Esperanza has his eyes, the voice said. Dark brown, like chocolate. And she has his stubborn streak. When she makes up her mind about something, nothing can change it. Marcus smiled inside his sleeping mind. The child sounded strong and determined, like her mother. I brought her picture to show you, the voice said. I know you can't see it, but maybe you can feel the love. She drew this for you. It's a picture of an angel watching over a sleeping prince. Warm fingers touched his hand. Marcus felt a piece of paper being placed on his palm. She said the angel looks like me, the voice whispered. And the prince looks like someone who needs to wake up and find his happy ending. Marcus felt his heart beating faster. The monitors around his bed began to beep more quickly. That's right, the voice said, excited. I can see you fighting too, Come back. Don't give up, Marcus. Someone is waiting for you. Who? Marcus wanted to ask. Who is waiting for me? But even as he thought the question, he knew the answer. The angel voice belonged to someone he had loved before. Someone he had promised to find. Someone who had waited longer than she should have. In his dreams that night, Marcus saw himself as a boy again. He was in the common room at Sunny Hills, teaching a shy girl how to play guitar. Her name was Delilah, and she had the most beautiful smile he had ever seen. Play the song about angels, she had asked him. I don't know any songs about angels, he had said. Then make one up, she had laughed. Make up a song about how angels watch over people who are lost. So he had made up a silly song about guardian angels who helped lost souls find their way home. Delilah had clapped and called him her favorite singer. You're my angel, she had said. You make everything better. No, he had replied, touching her face gently. You're the angel. You're the one who makes me believe in good things. Now, floating in his hospital bed between dreams and waking, Marcus understood. The voice that called him back to life belonged to his angel, his Delilah, the girl who had taught him that love was real and worth fighting for. She was here. She was taking care of him. She was waiting for him to wake up. Marcus began to push harder against the fog in his mind. He had to wake up. He had to see her face. He had to tell her he had never stopped looking for her. He had to meet the daughter who drew pictures of angels and sleeping princes. Esperanza. Hope. Maybe it wasn't too late for happy endings after all. Delilah tucked Esperanza into bed, pulling the pink blanket up to her chin. The little girl's room was filled with drawings she had made at school. Pictures of flowers and rainbows covered the walls. But tonight, Esperanza seemed sad. Mama, can I ask you something? Esperanza's dark eyes looked serious. Of course, baby. What's on your mind? Esperanza picked at the edge of her blanket. Today at school we made cards for Father's Day. Mrs. Garcia said we could make them for any man who takes care of us, like grandpas or uncles. Delilah's heart squeezed tight. What did you do? I made one for you instead, Esperanza said quietly. I wrote, Happy Father's Day, Mama, because you do daddy jobs too. Tears pricked at Delilah's eyes. That's very sweet, honey. But then I felt sad, Esperanza continued. All the other kids talked about their daddies. Sarah's daddy is teaching her to ride a bike, and Miguel's daddy comes to every soccer game. I know it's hard sometimes, Delilah said, sitting on the edge of the bed. Mama, do you think my daddy forgot about me? The question hit Delilah like a punch. She thought about Marcus lying unconscious in the hospital. If it really was him, he had never even known about Esperanza. Oh, sweetheart, your daddy could never forget about you. You're unforgettable. Then why doesn't he come to see me? Is he sick somewhere? Does he need help? Delilah's throat felt tight. I don't know where he is, Esperanza, but I know he would love you if he could see you. Maybe he's lost, Esperanza said, her voice getting smaller. Maybe he's trying to find us, but he doesn't know where we live. Maybe, Delilah whispered. Or maybe he's hurt and can't remember us. Like in that movie where the prince forgot the Yao. Princess. Delilah's hands trembled slightly. Esperanza's words were hitting too close to home. Mama, you look sad. Did I say something wrong? No, baby. You didn't say anything wrong. I just wish I had better answers for you. Esperanza sat up and hugged her mother tight. It's okay, Mama. We have each other. And we have God watching over us. That's right, Delilah said, though her own faith felt shaky lately. We always have each other. Can we pray for my daddy tonight? Even if we don't know where he is? Delilah nodded. Let's pray together. They bowed their heads, and Esperanza spoke in her clear, sweet voice. Dear God, please take care of my daddy wherever he is. If he's sick, please help him get better. If he's lost, please help him find his way home. And if he's sad, please tell him that I love him and I'm waiting to meet him. Amen. Amen, Delilah whispered, her voice breaking. After Esperanza fell asleep, Delilah sat in the kitchen with a cup of tea. Her daughter's prayer echoed in her mind. What if Marcus really was trying to find them? What if he had been looking all these years? She thought about the man in the hospital bed. Every day, she became more certain it was him. The way his hand felt in hers, the small scar above his eyebrow, the way he seemed to respond to her voice. But she was also afraid. What if she was wrong? What if she told Esperanza about him and he died?
What if he woke up and didn't remember them? What if he woke up and didn't want them? At the hospital, Dr. Williams met Delilah at the nurse's station when she arrived for her shift. Marcus Thompson's condition is changing, he said, looking
at his chart. His brain activity is increasing. He's been more responsive to sounds and touch. Delilah's heart jumped. Is he waking up? It's possible. But we're also concerned. His heart rate has been irregular. Sometimes it speeds up for no medical reason. Other times it almost stops. What could cause that? We're not sure. It might be his body fighting to wake up, or it could be something else entirely. Delilah hurried to Marcus's room. He looked the same as always, peaceful but pale. But when she spoke to him, she noticed something different. Hello, Marcus. It's me again. His eyelids fluttered slightly. Just for a second, but she saw it. Can you hear me today? She asked, taking his hand. His fingers seemed to squeeze hers, so gently she almost missed it. The doctors say you're getting stronger. I think you're fighting to come back to us. His heart monitor beeped faster. I brought you something special today, Delilah said, pulling out her phone. I want to show you a picture. She held up a photo of Esperanza at her school's spring concert. The little girl was wearing a white dress and holding a flower. This is my daughter Esperanza, Delilah said softly. She's 8 years old. She prays for lost people every night. I think she would pray for you too if she met you. Marcus's breathing seemed to change. The monitor showed his heart beating faster and faster. She drew you another picture, Delilah continued, placing a new drawing on his bedside table. It's a picture of a family, a mama, a daddy, and a little girl holding hands. Suddenly, Marcus's eyes opened, just for a moment, but Delilah saw them clearly. Dark brown eyes, exactly like Esperanza's. Eyes she had dreamed about for 8 years. Marcus, she whispered. But his eyes closed again, and he went back to sleeping. Delilah sat down hard in the chair beside his bed. Her hands were shaking. Those eyes. She knew those eyes. It is you, she said quietly. After all these years, it's really you. Meanwhile, across town, social worker Janet Martinez, no relation to Delilah, was digging through old files. The hospital had asked her to find any family information for Marcus Thompson. So far, she had found very little. But something was bothering her about his case. The name Marcus Thompson didn't match the person she was finding in the system. His social security number led to a different name entirely, Marcus Rivera. Janet pulled out a thick file from 2007. Marcus Rivera, age 17, had lived at Sunny Hills foster home until he aged out of the system. The file contained reports, photos, and contact information for other children who had lived there at the same time. One name caught her attention: Delilah Rivera. Janet looked closer. These two young people had been close friends. There were notes about them being inseparable. There was even a report from a counselor saying they seemed to be first love, and that separation might be difficult for both of them. Delilah Rivera had also aged out of the system. But her file showed she had gotten married in 2017 to someone named Carlos Martinez. She had taken her husband's name. Janet's eyes widened. Martinez. She knew that name. She picked up her phone and called the hospital. "This is Janet Martinez from Social Services. I need to speak with someone about Marcus Thompson's case. I think I found something important." As Janet waited on hold, she looked at the old photo of Marcus and Delilah from their foster home days. They were smiling at the camera, their arms around each other, looking like they could conquer the world together. Sometimes, Janet said to herself, life works in mysterious ways. She didn't know that upstairs in the ICU, the same two people were finding their way back to each other after 8 long years. She didn't know that love had been waiting patiently for this moment, disguised as coincidence and wrapped in hope. Delilah couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Marcus's dark brown eyes looking at her from the hospital bed. Those few seconds when he had opened them felt like a lifetime. She sat on her bedroom floor at 2 in the morning, surrounded by boxes she hadn't opened in years. After her husband Carlos died 3 years ago, she had packed away most of his things. But tonight, she was looking for something else entirely, her foster care memories. She found the small wooden box in the back of her closet, behind winter coats and old photo albums. Her hands trembled as she lifted the lid. Inside were treasures from her teenage years at Sunny Hills foster home. Letters from other kids who had been adopted. A dried flower from the garden she had helped plant. A small cross necklace that had belonged to her first roommate. And at the bottom, wrapped in tissue paper, were drawings. Delilah's breath caught in her throat. She remembered these pictures. They were drawings that Marcus had made for her when they were 17. He wasn't a great artist, but he tried so hard to make her smile. She unfolded the first one carefully. It was a picture of 2 stick figures holding hands under a rainbow. At the bottom, in Marcus's messy handwriting, it said, "Delilah and Marcus, best friends forever." The second drawing made her laugh and cry at the same time. It showed a stick figure girl with long hair wearing what looked like angel wings. The stick figure boy was kneeling beside her with his hands together in prayer. The caption read, "My angel nurse Delilah. She makes everything better. Angel nurse." The words hit her like lightning. Delilah remembered now. Whenever Marcus got sick or hurt, he would ask for her to take care of him. The other kids used to tease him about it, but Marcus would just smile and say, "Delilah is my angel nurse. She has magic hands that make the hurt go away." Her hands shook as she opened the third drawing. This one was different from the others. It was more detailed, drawn with colored pencils instead of regular pencil. It showed a boy and girl sitting under a tree, looking at the stars. At the bottom, Marcus had written, "For Delilah Rivera, the girl who taught me what love means. When I grow up, I will find you and we will have our own family. I promise. Love, always. Marcus Rivera. Marcus Rivera, not Thompson." Delilah's mind raced. Why would he change his name? People sometimes did that when they got married, or when they wanted a fresh start. But Marcus had always been proud of his name. He used to say it connected him to his birth parents, even though he never knew them. She looked at the date on the Drawing. March 15th, 2016. Just 2 weeks before they were separated. 2 weeks before everything changed. Delilah wiped tears from her eyes and reached for her phone. She had to know for sure. She typed Marcus Rivera into the search engine and waited. Several results came up. Marcus Rivera, mechanic in Texas. Marcus Rivera, teacher in Florida. But then she found what she was looking for. Marcus Rivera changed his name to Marcus Thompson, starts business in Chicago. The article was from 2019. It talked about a young entrepreneur who had legally changed his name and started a successful company with his business partner. The photo was small and blurry, but Delilah's heart recognized the face immediately. It was him, her Marcus. He had been living in the same city for years, just 15 minutes away from the hospital where she worked. At the hospital, later that morning, Delilah arrived at work early, carrying the memory box with her. She went straight to Marcus's room and sat in the chair beside his bed. "I brought you something," she said softly, opening the box. "Something that belongs to both of us." She took out the drawing of the angel nurse and held it where he could see it, even with his eyes closed. "Do you remember drawing this for me?" she asked. "You called me your angel nurse. You said I had magic hands." Marcus's breathing changed. The heart monitor showed his pulse getting faster. "I kept all your drawings, Marcus. I kept them for 8 years, hoping someday I would see you again." She pulled out the promise drawing and read his words aloud. "When I grow up, I will find you and we will have our own family. I promise. Love always, Marcus Rivera." Marcus's head moved slightly on the pillow. Just a tiny movement, but Delilah saw it. "You did try to find me, didn't you?" she whispered. "But I got married and changed my name. You were looking for Delilah Rivera, but I became Delilah Martinez." His hand twitched on the blanket. "I should have kept looking for you too," she continued. "But I thought you had forgotten about me. I thought you had moved on with your life." She reached out and took his hand in both of hers. "Marcus, I need you to know something important. We did have a family. We have a daughter." The heart monitor beeped faster and faster. "Her name is Esperanza. She's 8 years old, and she has your eyes, your stubborn streak, your kind heart." Marcus's eyelids began to flutter. "She draws pictures just like you used to. Angels and princes and happy families. She's been praying for you without even knowing it." Suddenly, Marcus's lips moved. No sound came out, but Delilah could see him trying to speak. "What is it?" She leaned closer to his face. "What are you trying to say?" His lips moved again, and this time she heard the faintest whisper. "Angel. Nurse." Delilah's heart stopped. Those were the words from his drawing, the words he used to call her when they were kids. "Yes," she whispered back, tears streaming down her face. "It's me, your angel nurse. I'm here, Marcus. I'm here, and I'm not leaving you again." Marcus's eyes opened slowly. They were foggy and confused, but they were looking right at her. His mouth moved again. "Delilah?" "Yes," she sobbed. "It's me. It's really me." His hand squeezed hers weakly. "I looked for you." I know you did. I'm so sorry it took so long to find each other." "Daughter?" he whispered. "Yes, we have a daughter. Her name is Esperanza, and she's perfect. She's been waiting to meet her daddy." Marcus tried to smile, but the effort was too much. His eyes closed again, but his hand stayed tight in hers. Dr. Williams rushed into the room, alerted by the racing heart monitor. "What happened?" he asked, checking Marcus's vital signs. "He woke up," Delilah said, not taking her eyes off Marcus's face. "He spoke to me. This is wonderful news. His brain activity is off the charts. Something has definitely changed." Dr. Williams didn't know that what had changed was love finding its way home after 8 years of searching. He didn't know that sometimes the best medicine isn't found in bottles or machines. Sometimes the best medicine is a hand to hold and a voice that whispers, "You're not alone anymore." Janet Martinez knocked on the door of Marcus's hospital room. She carried a thick folder filled with papers and old photos. Behind her stood Dr. Williams and the hospital's patient coordinator. Delilah looked up from Marcus's bedside. She had been holding his hand for 3 hours, ever since he had whispered her name. He was sleeping again, but peacefully this time. "Ms. Martinez?" Janet said. "I'm Janet Martinez from Social Services. I need to speak with you about something very important." Delilah's heart jumped. Had she done something wrong? Was she in trouble for getting too close to a patient? "What is it?" she asked. Janet opened her folder and pulled out an old photograph. It showed 2 teenagers at a Christmas party, both wearing silly paper crowns and laughing at the camera. "Do you recognize these people?" Janet asked. Delilah's breath caught in her throat. It was her and Marcus from their last Christmas together at Sunny Hill's foster home. They looked so young and happy. "Where did you get this?" Delilah whispered. "From Marcus Rivera's file," Janet said gently. "The man you know as Marcus Thompson is actually Marcus Rivera. He legally changed his name in 2019. "I know," Delilah said quietly. "I figured it out last night." Janet sat down in the chair across from her. "Then you know who he really is?" "He's the father of my daughter," Delilah said, her voice barely audible. "He's the man I've been looking for since Esperanza was born." Dr. Williams stepped forward. "Are you saying this patient is your former partner, the father of your child?" "Yes," Delilah said, feeling like the words were too big for her mouth. "We grew up together in foster care. We were separated when we were 17. I got pregnant right before he left, but I didn't know until after he was gone." Janet pulled out more papers from her folder. "I've been researching his background since yesterday. What I found might explain why he never found you." She spread several documents across the bedside table. Bank records, business papers, and receipts from private investigation companies. "Marcus has been looking for you for 8 years, Janet said. "Look at these." Delilah stared at the papers. There were payments to 3 different private investigation companies. Thousands of dollars spent on searches for Delilah Rivera and Delilah Rivera with child. "He spent almost all his money trying to find you," Janet continued. "Even when his business was failing, he kept paying investigators." One receipt was dated just 2 months ago. "Rivera Investigation Services. Final payment for extended search of Delilah Rivera. Last known location, Illinois." Delilah's hands shook as she read. "He was still looking for me?" "According to these records, he never stopped," Janet said. "But there was one problem. After you married Carlos Martinez and took his name, there was no paper trail connecting Delilah Martinez back to Delilah Rivera. The investigators couldn't find me because I wasn't Delilah Rivera anymore," Delilah realized. "Exactly. And you couldn't find him because he changed his name to Thompson after his business partner betrayed him. He said in his statement that he wanted to start fresh, leave the past behind." Dr. Williams looked confused. "I don't understand. If he wanted to leave the past behind, why was he still paying investigators?" Janet pulled out one more document. "This is a letter Marcus wrote to his lawyer last year. It explains everything." She handed the letter to Delilah. It was typed, but Marcus had signed it in his familiar handwriting. Delilah read aloud. "I know. Changing my name seems like I'm running away from my past. But the truth is, I'm trying to build a future worthy of the people I lost. Delilah Rivera was the love of my life. If she had our child, then that child deserves a father who can provide for them. I'm not giving up on finding them. I'm just becoming someone better first." Tears ran down Delilah's face. "He changed his name to build a better life for us." Keep reading, Janet said softly. I've made mistakes. I trusted the wrong person with my business. I lost everything I worked for. But I won't stop looking for Delilah and our possible child. If it takes the rest of my life, I will find them. I will prove that love doesn't give up, even when everything else falls apart. Delilah looked at Marcus's sleeping face. All this time I thought he had forgotten about us. I thought he had moved on. There's more, Janet said. She pulled out a small notebook, worn and full of handwritten notes. I found this in his personal belongings from the accident. Delilah opened the notebook. Every page was filled with information about her search. Names of foster kids who might remember where she went. Addresses of families who had tried to adopt her. Phone numbers of social workers who had worked their case. On the last page, written in Marcus's careful handwriting, was a prayer. God, I know I'm not perfect. I know I've made mistakes. But please help me find Delilah and our child. I promise. I will spend every day making up for the years I missed. I promise I will be the father and partner they deserve. Please don't let it be too late for love. Delilah closed the notebook and pressed it to her chest. He was praying for us. Just like Esperanza prays for him, Janet observed. How do you know about Esperanza? I looked up your records too, Janet said with a small smile. 8-year-old daughter, born 9 months after Marcus left for his new foster placement. Father, listed as unknown. Marcus stirred in his hospital bed. His eyes opened slowly, and he looked around the room in confusion. Delilah? He said, his voice rough from sleep. I'm here, she said, taking his hand again. Marcus looked at the people around. His bed. Who? This is Janet from Social Services, Delilah explained. She's been helping us understand what happened, why we couldn't find each other. Marcus tried to sit up, but he was still too weak. Did you tell her about Esperanza? Yes, Marcus's eyes filled with tears. I have a daughter. Yes, Delilah said. And she's wonderful. She's smart and kind and funny. She has your eyes and your heart. I looked for you, Marcus whispered. I never stopped looking. I know. Janet showed me the papers. You spent everything trying to find us. Marcus turned, his head to look at Janet. Did I lose the money? From the accident, I can't remember. Your business partner stole most of your savings, Janet said gently. The investigators took the rest. You don't have much left. Marcus closed his eyes. Then I have nothing to offer you. Nothing to offer her. Delilah squeezed his hand tighter. You have yourself. You have love. That's all we ever wanted. But she deserves a father who can take care of her, who can give her things. She deserves a father who loves her, Delilah said firmly. And you loved her before you even knew she existed. You spent 8 years searching for us. That's more than most fathers do. Marcus looked at her with wonder. You really forgive me? For not being there? There's nothing to forgive. You didn't know about her. And when you suspected, you did everything you could to find us. Dr. Williams stepped forward. Marcus, you need to rest. This is a lot of information to process after a serious injury. I want to meet her, Marcus said urgently. I want to meet my daughter. Delilah smiled through her tears. And she wants to meet you. She's been drawing pictures of her daddy for years. Pictures of a family. Holding hands. Will she like me? Marcus asked, suddenly looking scared. She's going to love you, Delilah promised. Because I'm going to tell her the truth. That her daddy is a man who never gave up. A man who searched the world looking for love. Marcus smiled for the first time since waking up. It was a real smile, full of hope and new beginnings. When can I meet her? He asked. Soon, Delilah said. Very soon. But first, you need to get stronger. Esperanza has a lot of energy. You'll need to keep up with her." Marcus laughed, which made him cough, but he didn't stop smiling. "I can't wait." Janet gathered up her papers and photos. "I'll start the paperwork for adding Marcus as Esperanza's father on her birth certificate. It's going to be a beautiful reunion." As everyone left the room, Delilah stayed beside Marcus's bed. They had 8 years of catching up to do, and a daughter who was waiting to meet her daddy. But for now, it was enough to hold hands and know that love had finally found its way home. Delilah sat in her car outside Esperanza's school, gripping the steering wheel so tight her knuckles turned white. How do you tell an 8-year-old that her daddy is real? That he's been looking for her? That he's lying in a hospital bed waiting to meet her? She watched through the chain-link fence as Esperanza played on the swings with her best friend Maria. Her daughter's laughter floated across the playground like music. Soon, everything in their small world would change. The school bell rang, and children poured out of the building like colorful flowers spilling from a basket. Esperanza ran toward the car, her backpack bouncing behind her. "Mama," she called, climbing into the passenger seat. "Guess what happened today?" "What, baby?" "Mrs. Garcia let me feed the class hamster, and Tommy Martinez shared his cookies with me, and we learned about butterflies in science class." Esperanza buckled her seatbelt, chattering excitedly. "Did you know butterflies taste with their feet?" Delilah smiled despite her nervousness. "That's amazing, sweetheart." "Where are we going? This isn't the way home." Delilah had been dreading this moment all day. "We're going to visit someone special at the hospital where I work." "Is someone sick? Are they going to be okay?" "He's getting better," Delilah said carefully. "But he's been hurt, and he's been very lonely. I thought maybe we could cheer him up." "What's his name?" Delilah's throat felt tight. "His name is Marcus. He's someone very important." Esperanza studied her mother's face. Even at 8 years old, she could tell when adults were holding back information. "Mama, you look scared. Is this person dangerous?" "No, baby. He's the kindest man I've ever known. I'm just nervous about you meeting him." "Why?" Delilah pulled into the hospital parking lot and turned off the engine. She turned to face her daughter, taking her small hands in both of hers. "Esperanza, do you remember how you've been praying for your daddy, asking God to take care of him and help him find us?" Esperanza's dark eyes grew wide. "Yes. Well, sometimes God answers prayers in ways we don't expect." "Mama, what are you trying to say?" Delilah took a deep breath. "The man we're going to visit, his name is Marcus Rivera. He grew up with me in foster care when we were teenagers. We loved each other very much, but we got separated before you were born." Esperanza was very still, processing this information. "He's your daddy, isn't he?" she whispered. Delilah nodded, tears starting to fall. "Yes, sweetheart. He's your daddy." Esperanza stared at her for a long moment. Then, to Delilah's surprise, she smiled. "I knew it," she said quietly. "I've been dreaming about him. In my dreams, he has dark eyes like mine, and he's been looking for us." "You dreamed about him?" "Every night this week. He was calling my name, but he couldn't find me. I kept trying to tell him where I was, but he couldn't hear me." Delilah's heart ached. "He's been in a coma, baby. That means he's been sleeping very deeply because his brain was hurt in a car accident. But he's waking up now." "Is that why he never came to find us? Because he was hurt?" "Partly, but mostly because he didn't know where we were. I changed my name when I married Carlos, so he couldn't find us, even though he tried very hard." Esperanza unbuckled her seatbelt and hugged her mother tight. "It's okay, Mama. Sometimes families get lost, but love helps them find each other again." Out of the mouths of babes, Delilah thought. "Are you ready to meet him?" I've been ready my whole life, Esperanza said solemnly. In the hospital room, Marcus had spent the afternoon trying to make himself look presentable. A nurse had helped him wash his hair and shave the stubble from his face. He wore a clean hospital gown and had brushed his teeth 3 times, but nothing could calm the butterflies in his stomach. He was about to meet his daughter, his little girl, the child he had dreamed about for 8 years without even knowing. She was real. What if she didn't like him? What if she was scared of him? What if he said the wrong thing? Dr. Williams had explained that children were usually very accepting, especially when they had been wanting to meet their father. But Marcus still felt terrified. The door opened, and Delilah walked in, holding the hand of a small girl with dark curly hair and huge brown eyes. Marcus's breath stopped. She looked exactly like Delilah had at that age, but with his eyes and his stubborn chin, she was perfect. "Marcus," Delilah said softly, "I'd like you to meet Esperanza." Esperanza stepped forward, studying Marcus's face with serious 8-year-old eyes. "Hello," she said politely. "Are you feeling better?" Marcus's voice came out as a whisper. "Hello, Esperanza. Yes, I'm feeling much better now. Mama says you're my daddy." "Yes," Marcus said, his eyes filling with tears. "I am. And I'm very sorry it took me so long to find you." Esperanza tilted her head, considering this. "Were you lost?" "Very lost," Marcus admitted. "But your mama helped me find my way home." "I made you something," Esperanza said, reaching into her backpack. She pulled out a drawing and held it up for him to see. It was a picture of a man lying in a hospital bed with a little girl sitting beside him holding his hand. Above them, a bright yellow sun was shining through the window. "I drew this before I knew who you were," she said. "But somehow, I knew you needed someone to hold your hand." Marcus couldn't speak. He just stared at the drawing, overwhelmed by love and wonder. "Can I sit with you?" Esperanza asked. Marcus nodded, afraid to trust his voice. Delilah helped Esperanza climb into the chair beside his bed. Without hesitation, Esperanza reached out and took Marcus's hand in her small one. "Your hands are big like I imagined," she said, "and warm." "Your hands are perfect," Marcus managed to say, "just like the rest of you. Mama told me you've been looking for us for a long time." "Every single day," Marcus said. "I never stopped, believing I would find you someday." "I've been praying for you every night," Esperanza said. "I ask God to take care of you and help you not be sad anymore." "Your prayers worked," Marcus said, squeezing her hand gently. "I'm not sad anymore." They sat together in comfortable silence, father and daughter holding hands for the first time. The heart monitor showed Marcus's pulse steady and strong. "Daddy?" Esperanza said the word carefully, testing how it felt. "Yes?" "When you get out of the hospital, will you come see my room? I have lots of drawings to show you, and I have a pet goldfish named Sunshine." "I would love that more than anything," Marcus said. "And will you read me bedtime stories? Mama does voices for all the characters." "I'll learn to do voices too," Marcus promised. "And will you teach me to play guitar? I heard you used to play guitar when you were young." Marcus looked at Delilah in surprise. "You told her I played guitar." "She asked if you liked music," Delilah said. "I told her you used to write songs." "Will you write a song about me?" Esperanza asked hopefully. "I'll write you 100 songs," Marcus said, laughing through his tears. Esperanza giggled. "That's a lot of songs." "That's how much I love you," Marcus said. 100 songs worth. As the afternoon wore on, Esperanza chattered about school, and her friends, and her favorite TV shows. Marcus listened to every word like it was the most important thing he had ever heard. When visiting hours were over, Esperanza hugged him carefully, mindful of his injuries. "I'll come back tomorrow," she promised, "and every day until you're well enough to come home with us." "We have our own home now?" Marcus asked Delilah. "We'll figure it out," she said. one day at a time. As they prepared to leave, Esperanza turned back at the door. "Daddy, I'm really glad God answered my prayers. I'm glad you found us." "Me too, baby girl," Marcus said. "Me too." After they left, Marcus lay in his hospital bed, staring at Esperanza's drawing. His daughter. His beautiful, perfect daughter, who had been praying for him every night. For the first time in 8 years, Marcus felt truly, completely happy. Love had found its way home at last. 3 days after the reunion, Marcus was getting stronger every day. He could sit up in bed for longer periods. He could eat solid food. Best of all, he could hold conversations with Esperanza that lasted for hours. She visited him every day after school, bringing new drawings and stories about her classmates. Yesterday, she had taught him how to make friendship bracelets using the craft supplies the nurses had given her. Marcus wore his purple and pink bracelet proudly, even though it clashed with his hospital gown. "Tomorrow is Saturday," Esperanza announced, settling into her usual chair beside his bed. "Mama says if you're feeling good, we can bring you real food from outside." "What's your favorite?" Marcus thought carefully. "I haven't had pizza in a long time. What about you?" "I love pizza, especially with extra cheese and those little round pepperoni." Esperanza bounced in her chair with excitement. "We can have a pizza party right here in your room." "That sounds perfect," Marcus said, smiling at her enthusiasm. Delilah walked in carrying coffee and a small wrapped package. "How are my two favorite people doing?" "Daddy and I are planning a pizza party," Esperanza announced. "Can we get the kind with the stuffed crust?" "We'll see," Delilah said, sitting on the edge of Marcus's bed. "I brought you something, Marcus." She handed him the package. Inside was a small photo album filled with pictures of Esperanza from birth to now. Baby pictures, first steps, first day of school, birthday parties, Christmas mornings. 8 years. "Of her life," Delilah said softly. "I thought you should see what you missed." Marcus turned the pages slowly, studying each photo. Esperanza as a tiny baby with a wrinkled red face. Esperanza taking her first wobbly steps. Esperanza blowing out candles on birthday cakes, each year showing her growing taller and more beautiful. She "Looks like you," he said, touching a photo of Esperanza at age 4, grinning with 2 missing front teeth. "She has your stubborn streak," Delilah replied, "and your love of music. She hums constantly." "I do not hum constantly," Esperanza protested, but she was smiling. "You're humming right now," Marcus pointed out. Esperanza stopped mid-hum and giggled. "Okay, maybe I hum a little." As the evening wore on, Marcus began to feel tired. The medications made him drowsy, and the excitement of having his family near was overwhelming in the best way. "We should let you rest," Delilah said, noticing his heavy eyelids. "Can I stay just a little longer?" Esperanza asked. "I want to show Daddy the song I learned in music class." 5 more minutes, Delilah agreed. Esperanza stood beside Marcus's bed and began to sing a simple song about butterflies and flowers. Her voice was sweet and clear, just like her mother's had been at that age. Marcus watched her face as she sang, memorizing every detail. This was his daughter, his beautiful, perfect daughter, who had waited 8 years to meet him. But as Esperanza sang, something felt wrong. Marcus's chest began to feel tight. His breathing became shallow. A strange buzzing filled his ears. "Delilah," he said quietly, not wanting to alarm Esperanza. But Delilah was already moving toward him, her nurse instincts kicking in. She saw the pale color of his skin, the way his hand trembled on the blanket. "Esperanza, come here, baby," she said calmly. "Is Daddy okay?" Esperanza stopped singing, her face worried. "He's just tired," Delilah said, but her eyes were on the heart monitor above Marcus's bed. The rhythm was becoming irregular, jumping between fast and slow. Marcus felt like he was falling down a long, dark tunnel. The room began to spin around. Him, He could hear Delilah's voice calling his name, but it sounded far away. "I can't breathe," he gasped. Delilah hit the emergency button on the wall. "Esperanza, I need you to go sit in the chair by the window, right now." "But what's wrong with Daddy? Just go sit down, sweetheart. Everything will be okay." But everything was not okay. Marcus's vision was going dark around the edges. His heart felt like it was beating too hard and too fast, then too slow and too weak. "Delilah," he whispered, reaching for her hand. "I'm scared." She took his hand in both of hers, just like she had that very first night when he was unconscious and alone. But now she knew who he was. Now she knew what was at stake. "You're not alone," she said firmly. "I'm here with you. If something happens to me, nothing is going to happen to you," Delilah said, but her voice was shaking. "Tell Esperanza. Tell her I love her. Tell her I'm sorry I missed so much time." "You tell her yourself," Delilah said, tears streaming down her face. "You fight, Marcus Rivera. You fight to stay with us." The medical team burst through the door, pushing equipment and shouting orders. Esperanza pressed herself against the window, watching with wide, frightened eyes. "What do we have?" Dr. Williams asked, checking Marcus's pulse. "Sudden cardiac episode," Delilah reported, though her hands were shaking. Heart rate was irregular, then blood pressure dropped. Marcus's eyes found Esperanza across the room. His little girl looked so scared, so small. He had just found her. He couldn't leave her now. "Esperanza," he called weakly. "Come here, baby." Delilah looked at Dr. Williams, who nodded. Sometimes family was the best medicine. Esperanza ran to the bed and took Marcus's other hand. "Don't go away, Daddy. Please don't go away." "I'm trying to stay," Marcus whispered. "I'm trying so hard." The heart monitor began to beep faster and faster, then slower and slower. The green line on the screen started to flatten. "Marcus," Delilah said urgently, "look at me. Look at your daughter. We need you. Esperanza needs her daddy." Marcus struggled to keep his eyes open. He looked at Esperanza's face, so full of love and fear. He looked at Delilah, the woman who had never stopped being his angel. "Jesus is with you," Delilah whispered, leaning close to his ear. "And so am I. And so is Esperanza. You're not fighting this alone." The words were the same ones she had spoken that first night, when he was a stranger to her. But now they carried 8 years of love, 8 years of waiting, and a lifetime of hope for the future. Marcus felt the warmth of his daughter's small hand in his. He felt the strength of Delilah's love surrounding him. And somewhere in the darkness that was trying to pull him away, he heard a small voice singing about butterflies and flowers. "I have something to live for," he thought. "I have everything to live for." But his heart was failing. The monitor showed the flat line that meant no heartbeat. The medical team prepared the defibrillator, ready to shock his heart back to life. In that moment between life and death, Marcus made a choice. He chose love over fear. He chose hope over surrender. He chose his family over the darkness. The last thing he heard before the world went quiet was Esperanza's voice, no longer singing but praying. "Please, God," she whispered. "Please don't take my daddy away from me. I just found him." And somewhere in that prayer, in that perfect love of a child for her father, was the power to call a soul back from the edge of forever. The flatline screamed its warning, but love whispered louder. The defibrillator charged with a high whine that filled the room like a warning siren. Dr. Williams positioned the paddles over Marcus's chest while nurses cleared everyone away from the bed. "Clear," he shouted. Marcus's body jumped with the electric shock. Once, twice, 3 times. The heart monitor stayed flat and silent. Esperanza buried her face in Delilah's shoulder, sobbing. "Make it work, Mama. Make his heart work again." "One more time," Dr. Williams said grimly, charging to 300. But as he prepared for the 4th shock, Something miraculous happened. A small blip appeared on the monitor. Then another. Then a steady rhythm began to emerge, weak but present. "We've got him back," Dr. Williams said, relief flooding his voice. Heart rate is steady at 68. Marcus's eyes fluttered open, confused and unfocused. The first thing he saw was Esperanza's tear-streaked face hovering over him. "Daddy," she whispered, "are you okay?" Marcus tried to speak, but his throat was dry. Delilah quickly gave him ice chips to suck on. "I'm okay, baby girl," he finally managed to say. "I'm not going anywhere." "You scared me," Esperanza said, climbing carefully onto the bed beside him. "I thought you were going to disappear like in my bad dreams." "No more disappearing," Marcus promised, wrapping his arm around her. "From now on, I'm staying right where you can find me." 3 weeks later, Marcus was finally strong enough to leave the hospital. The doctors said his heart was healing well, but he would need to take medications and see specialists for a while. More importantly, he would need to take things slowly. Delilah had found him a small apartment just 2 blocks from their house. It wasn't much, just a 1-bedroom with basics furniture. But it was close enough for Esperanza to visit every day. "It's perfect," Marcus said as Delilah showed him around the tiny kitchen. "I don't need much space. I just need to be near you and Esperanza." "Are you sure about this?" Delilah asked. "We could have found something bigger. You could stay with us until—" "Until what?" Marcus asked gently. "Until we figure out if we can be a family again?" Delilah nodded, looking nervous. "It's been 8 years, Marcus. We're different people now. I'm not the same girl you knew in foster care." "Neither am I," Marcus said. "But some things don't change. The way I feel about you hasn't changed." They were interrupted by Esperanza bursting through the front door, carrying a box almost as big as she was. "Daddy, I brought you a housewarming." "Present," she announced, struggling with the heavy box. Marcus hurried to help her. Inside the box was a collection of things Esperanza thought he would need. A coffee mug with "World's Best Dad" written on it, a small cactus plant, 3 of her, favorite books, and a framed photo of the 3 of them taken at the hospital. "And this," she said, pulling out a small wooden cross, "is to hang above your bed. So you remember that God and your family are always watching over you." Marcus hung the cross on the bedroom wall, right where he would see it every morning when he woke up. 2 months later, Marcus had found a job at a local music store, teaching guitar lessons to kids after school. The pay wasn't much, but it was enough to cover his rent and medical bills. More importantly, it made him happy. Esperanza had started taking guitar lessons from him twice a week. She was a natural musician, picking up chords and melodies faster than students twice her age. "Play the song you wrote for me," she requested during one of their lessons. Marcus strummed the opening chords of Esperanza's song, a gentle melody he had composed about a little girl who brought hope to everyone she met. "When I was lost and couldn't find my way," he sang softly, "an angel prayed for me every day. She didn't know my name or where I'd been, but love found a way to bring me home again." Esperanza joined in on the chorus, her sweet voice harmonizing with his. "Hope lives in little hands that reach for you. Hope lives in little hearts that stay true. Hope is a daughter who waits by the door. Hope is a love worth fighting for." Delilah listened from the kitchen, washing dishes and smiling. This had become their evening routine. Dinner together, then music lessons, then homework at the kitchen table while Marcus helped with math problems. They weren't living together yet, but they were building something new. Something based on who they were now, not just who they had been as teenagers. 6 months later, "Mama," Esperanza said one evening while they were making dinner, "when are you and Daddy going to get married?" Delilah nearly dropped the wooden spoon she was holding. "What made you think about that, sweetheart?" "Sarah's parents got married last weekend, and she said it was the most beautiful thing she ever saw. She said when people love each other and want to be a family forever, they have a wedding." Delilah looked out the kitchen window toward Marcus's apartment. He was probably grading the papers from his music students or practicing guitar on his small balcony. It's complicated, baby. Marriage is a big decision. But don't you love Daddy? And doesn't he love you? Yes, Delilah said quietly. We love each other very much. Then what's complicated about it? 8-year-olds had a way of cutting through adult fears and getting straight to the heart of things. That evening, after Esperanza was in bed, Delilah walked the 2 blocks to Marcus's apartment. She found him on his balcony, playing guitar and watching the stars. That sounded beautiful, she said, climbing the fire escape to sit beside him. It's a new song, Marcus said. I'm calling it Second Chances. Will you play it for me? Marcus played the gentle melody while Delilah listened. The lyrics were about 2 people who found each other again after years of being lost. About love that survived mistakes and distance and time. Marcus, Delilah said when he finished, I've been thinking about us, about our future. And I'm scared, she admitted. I'm scared of making the wrong choice. I'm scared of hurting Esperanza if things don't work out. Marcus set down his guitar and took her hands. I'm scared too. But I'm more scared of missing out on the life we could have together. We've both changed so much. We've grown up, Marcus said. But the important things are still there. We still make each other laugh. We still care about the same things. We still want to build a family together. What if we mess it up? Then we'll figure it out together, Marcus said simply. Just like we're doing now. Delilah looked at this man she had loved as a girl and was learning to love as a woman. He was right. They were different people now, but they were building something real and solid. Esperanza asked me when we're going to get married, she said. Marcus's heart skipped a beat. What did you tell her? I told her it was complicated. Delilah smiled. But maybe it doesn't have to be. Delilah Martinez, Marcus said, sliding off his chair and getting down on one knee on the small balcony. I don't have a ring, and this isn't very romantic, but I can't wait another day to ask you this. Marcus, what are you doing? I'm asking you to marry me, to be my wife and let me be Esperanza's father officially, to build the family we dreamed about when we were kids. Delilah looked down at him. This man who had searched for her for 8 years. This man who had fought his way back from death's door because he heard his daughter's voice calling him home. Yes, she said, laughing and crying at the same time. Yes, I'll marry you. Marcus stood up and spun her around on the tiny balcony, both of them laughing like teenagers again. Should we tell Esperanza? He asked. Let's surprise her in the morning, Delilah said. She's going to be so excited. They spent the rest of the evening planning a small wedding for the 3 of them. Nothing fancy, just a simple ceremony where they could promise to love and take care of each other for the rest of their lives. 3 months later, the wedding was held in the hospital chapel where Marcus had spent so many weeks recovering. It seemed fitting to begin their new life in the place where their old life had been given back to them. Esperanza wore a yellow dress and carried a bouquet of daisies. She stood between her parents as they exchanged vows, beaming with joy. Promise to love you through sickness and health, Delilah said, thinking of all the nights she had held Marcus's hand in the ICU. I promise to never stop looking for you, Marcus said, thinking of the 8 years he had spent searching. Even when we're standing right next to each other. After they kissed and were pronounced husband and wife, Esperanza hugged them both. Tight. Now we're a real family, she said happily. We were always a real family, Marcus corrected gently. Now we're just official. As they walked out of the chapel together, hand in hand, Delilah thought about the journey that had brought them. Here, the years of separation, the nights of wondering, the moment she had held a stranger's hand and whispered words of faith. Sometimes love takes the long way home. Sometimes it has to travel through heartbreak and loss, and almost endings before it finds its place. But when it finally arrives, when it finally settles into the space it was always meant to fill, it feels like the most natural thing in the world, like coming home after a very long trip, like finding something precious that you thought was lost forever, like holding hands with your heart's truest companion and knowing that this time you'll never have to let go. That's the end. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Where are you listening from? I'd love to know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this tale, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Your support gives me the motivation to create more stories like this one.